free-thinking, innovative, and totally open-minded. Tommy Nation Politics. Hi, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Sign up, follow, and hit notifications to get this latest political news delivered each day without the mainstream media manufacturing consent narrative. Send your tips and suggestions to our homepage at facebook.com/Tommy Nation Politics.
Biden assails Georgia voting law as Jim Crow in the 21st century. Democrats seize on new state restrictions to fuel federal election overhaul. Atlanta. Democrats on Friday seized on new voting restrictions in Georgia to focus attention on the fight to overhaul federal election laws, setting up a slow-building standoff that carries echoes of the civil rights battles of a half-century ago. In fiery speeches, pointed statements and tweets, party leaders decried the law signed Thursday by the state's Republican governor as specifically aimed at suppressing Black and Latino votes and a threat to democracy. President Joe Biden released an extended statement, calling the law an attack on good conscience that denies the right to vote for countless Americans. Biden team holds fire after North Korean missile launches. The administration is in the midst of a comprehensive review of North Korea policy, and for now at least, the Biden team is avoiding escalation. Joe Biden says North Korea is his top foreign policy issue. Just don't expect him to do much about it, at least not in public. Take this week's fire and fury coming out of Pyongyang, a test of what U.S. military officials believe to be a new type of ballistic missile first displayed during a January military parade. Biden's response? Business as usual. As for the Pentagon, officials familiar with the discussions say military leaders have no immediate plans to respond or escalate, whether it's by stepping up joint military exercises with South Korea or by raising the U.S. alert status in the region. And while Biden said the tests violated UN Resolution 1718 and promised to respond accordingly to any escalation, he also left the door open to diplomacy. That may be tricky, after top North Korean leaders rejected repeated outreach attempts from the Biden team, and issued fiery warnings last week urging Washington to refrain from causing a stink. Meanwhile, U.S. relations with China, Pyongyang's biggest trading partner and perhaps the best hope of pressuring them into talks, are at perhaps an all-time low. So far, tensions are not nearly as high as when then-President Donald Trump said he would rain down fire and fury on Pyongyang for threatening to strike the United States, leading to an escalatory war of words with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un that only cooled when the two met in Singapore in 2018. By comparison, the Biden team is taking a more conventional approach. The administration is in the midst of a comprehensive review of North Korea policy, and for now at least, the Biden team is avoiding escalation while urging allies behind the scenes to step up pressure on Pyongyang. That may be enough, former officials said. This is an old pattern, and although it is provocative, it is not necessarily, I think, something that warrants climbing an escalation ladder when channels of communications are non-existent between a new administration and North Korea, said Randy Shriver, the former top Pentagon Indo-Pacific policy official in the Trump administration. Politics aside, humane plan needed now for migrant children alone on the border. After facing weeks of pressure from Republicans and Democrats, the Biden administration has finally released photos and videos from inside two Texas detention centers where unaccompanied children are being held. An ABC News report of the government-sanctioned video describes the conditions as crowded but orderly, and boasts of shelves stocked with items including linens, diapers, food, water and hand sanitizer. According to that report, a record number of 5,000 unaccompanied children are in Border Patrol custody, and an additional 10,500 are in the care of Health and Human Services. That contradicts the assessment by Representative Henry Queller, Democrat Texas, of photos he'd obtained, which revealed what he called terrible conditions for the children. But really, there's no point in parsing. No matter how orderly or well-stocked, children do not belong in facilities meant for criminals. Nor do they belong separated from their parents or guardians. How we got here, again, is complicated, but irrelevant if you're one of these kids stuck in countryless, parentless limbo, a political football for both parties. Partisans would prefer to make who's to blame the topic of conversation, as pointing fingers has taken the place of legislating when it comes to all kinds of hot-button issues, including immigration. No administration in modern history has been able to fix a system both sides agree is broken, perhaps because it's simply more politically profitable to leave it that way. After another administration, Trump's, failed to reach any kind of long-term, humane and secure immigration policy agreement, the Biden administration is falling into a similar pattern as previous ones. Officials are engaging in semantic arguments, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, as well as White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki have inexplicably refused to label the crisis at the border a crisis. The administration has been opaque. Bipartisan calls for more transparency from Senators Rob Portman and Chris Murphy, as well as from journalists like CNN's Jake Tapper, have thus far gone unanswered. And Biden officials, including Mayorkas, are pointing the fingers back at Trump. The director of the White House's Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, told CNN, "We knew we were inheriting an absolute mess from the previous administration." Painfully, some Biden officials are whitewashing the seriousness of the problem. One official told CNN, "Everyone wants to be like crisis, 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 but it's like, you know what, actually things are going really well." Finally, Biden's immigration stance helped invite a problem he clearly wasn't prepared for. Even for the many of us who welcomed his more empathetic approach to migrants and asylum seekers, empathy is no substitute for readiness. Biden is unfortunately falling into a trap so many before him have, setting policy based on what the last guy did.
As the news develops, we will be here to hoist the watchful eye over it. You know, that the fourth estate dubiously neglected a long time ago. With free thinking, innovative, and open-minded commentary, this is your new independent progressive media.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 5 words. Responsible. Responsible.
Tommy Nation Politics.